Hey guys, welcome to TST Garage. I'm Bart, and in this episode I have a beautiful new Suzuki GSX-8R in the shop with me. In this video we'll be discussing TST Industries LED front signals that fit with this bike. As you can see, I have a whole mess of equipment in front of me. Some of these parts are just the signal lamps, and then we also have separate systems that go with the lamps, and I will tell you all about how these things couple up together so that you are empowered to make the right choices when you're shopping for the correct parts for your taste. All right, let's get started. The OEM Suzuki signal looks like this. It is slightly long for most people's tastes, but in today's world, this is a pretty nice looking design compared to some other OEM equipment that we've seen. So pretty nice, kudos to Suzuki, but you know, for the customizers out there, we always offer some nice additions to the bike. You may want to change it, you may want to customize it, go with a sequential pattern of signaling, whatever it is, we got your back. Now, we have many different types of signals from mild to wild. We also have flush mount signals. We do offer these signals, they do appear in Suzuki categories. However, the bodywork here presents a recessed area for mounting, so I do not recommend using these. We do have them, but I will not go over the installation of these if you choose to do so. They're pretty simple, but you're on your own there. We have our Echo signals. These are constructed of CNC machined aluminum. They do feature very nice black anodized body with a color accent ring. Should you choose to further customize this package, it is available with several different colors of anodized ring. You could change the ring, make it match the color of your bike. The red here looks pretty nice. And we also have inscribed these signals with really nice iconography, laser etched onto the body here. They're pretty small form factor, but they do feature a very high power LED that fires through a sophisticated lens that blows out the single LED light source into a broad cone of light, giving you a very nice signaling light appearance. Next, we have the BL6 signal. This signal is a very slim form of a signal. It's slightly longer than, say, this one. It features 6 LEDs on board. It is available in a standard signaling version where signals fire on and off, or we also have the sequential pattern signaling version that starts inboard and scans outboard. With each signal pulse, it'll look like a scan outboard. That is a very nice touch. We like it here. Choice is yours, but the external view will basically look like this. Now, these are single circuit signals. That means you only have signaling within them. We do offer running light version of signals like this Quadrix here, and also our MECH-EVO. These, however, require wiring in an additional circuit via our running light connection kit. We also have a separate video covering the installation of that component on this bike. All the steps are broken down for you and enable you to get your installation done with ease. These guys here connect plug and play via our harness converters, terminate in bullet connectors on one end, and same OEM style connector as the OEM equipment on the other end, plug and play, good to go. Now, when you move away from using the OEM signals on a bike and replace them with aftermarket LED signals, especially when you go for different signals in the front and rear, you will be drawing much less current than the OEM system does, and your OEM flasher relay may get tripped up. I know for a fact on the S version of this bike and this bike, the R version, when you change the front and rear, you get one blink and then it doesn't blink anymore. So to restore the 85 cycle per minute rate, we do offer an LED flasher relay. This is our Gen 2 model. We also have a separate video covering the installation of that component on this bike. All the steps are broken down for you and enable you to get your installation done with ease. Now, we've talked about electrical assembly. We've talked about what happens with signaling rate. One thing I have to cover is how to mount these things before we actually get on the bike. So, for all the simple standard signals like you see here and any other form of stock or pod signal, we do offer a pod signal mounting kit. that comes with 2 plates and 2 washers. I will demonstrate how to use that in conjunction with these components on the bike. We actually do have front signal bundles that are created for each specific bike. On this bike in our product page, you will notice that we do have a front signal bundle that includes connectors, mounting, and then the lamp of your choice. This will simplify your shopping experience and get you the parts that you need in one simple step. Now, I'm really chomping at the bit to show you guys how to install these things. It's very simple. This bike makes it very, very simple. It's the simplest bike I've ever worked on, I think. We do not need to take any panels off. But before I do that, I just want to introduce one kit that we will be launching soon. It's our Pod Signal base kit. We will not be showing how to install that here, but I do want to introduce it to pique your interest. These are just bases that fit on the pod stocks of our signals or any 8mm stock signal out there. So if you want to buy a different company's, say Rizoma's equipment, and you put these on, they are a very nice accent, and we will have them available in several different colors. So check out tstindustries.com. That's where you'll find this product. In this episode, we'll be focusing on the MECH-EVO installation. All the other components get their own separate installations. This has several nuances that I wanted to show and break out from the other flows. So in this video, we'll be focusing just on this one. Let's get going. In the first step, we will be removing the OEM signals off the bike. We actually do not need to remove any of the fairings for that removal. We just took the opposite side than we're presenting on. We took that off because we wanted to show you guys what's happening on the inside and also have a view into the inside of the bike so we could document to you exactly what it's going to look like when you reach your hands in there. Now, again, I'm going to reiterate that fairing removal is not necessary. You have access by hand to the connector area, which is right there. I just touched it. And then you have access to this 10mm nut, which you will be loosening and then taking off by hand. And this is all made very simple by Suzuki. So thanks, Suzuki. So we have the focal point of the camera here centered on the actual connector within its routing clip in the fairing. We're going to put our finger underneath the connector and pry it up, and that just pops it out. There's another routing clip here. Now the wiring is free. This is a JST mini connector. It does have a little tab here. You press that in and that unlocks the connection. Just comes apart like that. Then we need to find this 10mm nut here. And I'm going to loosen that nut. Once the nut is loose, you can just use your hand to spin it off. And then you just need to grab the signal from the outside so it doesn't just drop off, and also make sure to remove that shoulder washer. And then we have our whole assembly coming off the bike, no sweat. So we have the left signal already removed. We also took out the shoulder washer and also the nut that holds this assembly on. That part's complete. The right side of the bike now needs to be removed, and then we'll get into the installation of the TST Industries parts. At this point, we'll grab one of the MECH-EVOs. They are not side specific. We will grab the hardware off of it. There's a nut and 2 washers. We need to remove the connectors from the nut one by one. That requires a little bit of patience. And then the washers are a little bit easier. Once you remove one connector, the other ones are a little bit looser. All right, now let's figure out which type of installation we're going to do. We have been provided 2 holes by Suzuki. We could try the front hole, and that is possible here. It will just produce an overhang in the front. So to me, that looks a little bit of an incomplete type of installation. Now the rear one will produce a similar incomplete result, but I do want to show you what that looks like, because these are the two versions of installation we can achieve without having to modify anything. So this is what it looks like on the rear hull. This looks a little bit better to me, and you would have to get really, really close to here to notice that it's overhanging, and in the front, it doesn't look too bad. So if you don't want to modify your bike, I would recommend going with this installation. Now for myself, I do like to have this centered here. So what I'll do is modify this area. This black plastic piece is not painted, and it's separate from the painted fairing. These are available at a minimal cost from Suzuki. If you screw it up or something, if you are modifying it and you screw it up, they're not that expensive, but technically screwing it up just means that if you go to some other aftermarket solution where it gets covered up anyway, it doesn't matter. If you go back to stock, it still doesn't matter because it gets covered up. So now our choices for modifying this area here are either drilling or slotting it out. I have a rotating file on a Dremel. Grab my eye protection here. If you are drilling, I recommend step drilling right through the center here. If you have an imaginary line from the center of this circle to this circle, that is where we want to drill. I'm using an 1/8 inch bit that is roughly 3 millimeters. Nice slow go through. And now I would switch to a 5/16 bit, and the 5/16 bit will provide a large enough hole for this 8 millimeter stud. If you're using one of these Dremel tools with a rotating file or some other grinding bit, you can just grind right through, and that'll slot this out and give you the ability to adjust. Now I want to reiterate the fact that this modification is not absolutely necessary for this installation. This was my choice. You do not have to choose this way, but for myself, I like to have this inner center and looking as good as it can. So that's what I'm going to do here. All right, now we have this signal centered on the pod that's been raised out of that shroud, and it's looking really, really nice. So now that I'm satisfied with this, I'm gonna get my hardware, my washers, get them on first. I'm gonna forward all this hardware up to the stud that's protruding from the inside here. I could get a good amount of tightening force on it just by hand, and that will provide me with enough friction so that it's self-captive here while I adjust it. You want to make sure that the center of the beam will be firing parallel with the ground, not up, not down. All right, that's looking good. I'm going to grab a 13 millimeter open-ended wrench and get this tightened down. We are tightening a mechanical steel fastener against polycarbonate plastic that's encasing the overmolded stud. So we do not want to exert too much pressure on that because it may fracture. Just enough so that this connection is preloaded, in that when I apply mechanical forces, rotation and pushing and pulling, none of this moves, and that is now physically mounted. So let's get it connected electrically. Here we have the harness converter appropriate for this vehicle. It has the OEM connector for the harness side, and then we have two bullet connectors for signal side. On our harness converters, yellow is positive, black is ground. On our signals that have 3-wire connections, we have brown that will attach to the yellow. This is the positive for signaling function. And then we have red is the ground on this signal, and that goes into the black ground on our harness converter. Make sure to engage that bullet connector properly. And then we slide these insulator caps together. What I like to do is grab a little bit of harness tape or electrical tape and get these taped down. They do have a tendency to move around a little bit from road vibration, so I always like to lock them down with a little bit of tape, making sure that each side of the vinyl cap is covered and locked down. So, okay, now we have taken care of the actual signal function connection, and we have a running light wire still sticking out from the lamp. This particular motorcycle is not equipped with running light function in its OEM signals. This means only two conductors go into the signals, and you only have signaling function when you initiate that. When you shut it off, this does not stay on. This signal lamp is enabled in that if you do power it, it will give you running light function, but we have to find that somewhere else. So a little bit more on that later. Let's get just the signal function connected and tested. So I have the connector for the signaling function here, the OEM signal connector. I'll get these guys mated. Let's power up the bike. Test the signals. Boom. We're good to go here. As you can see, it's flashing at the proper rate. Now this is because we already have this motorcycle equipped with our Gen 2 LED flasher relay. This is a component that fixes your flash rate after you've gone away from using the OEM signals, replace them with aftermarket LED signals that usually produces a hyper flash where these signals will flash very, very fast. If you change the front and rear signal to aftermarket equipment, chances are you'll only get like one blink or no blinks at all. So if you don't already have an LED flasher relay, please consider purchasing that with the signals. All right, so now that we have all of this figured out, everything's connected, we have our signaling function going. What we have to do at this point is tap in to a switched and fused positive 12 connection on the bike, and then connect that to here. So for that purpose, we will be using our running light connection kit. It comes with a wire and appropriate connectors, and the next several steps will instruct you on how to find the appropriate connection here that will be switched and fused. That means it is actuated off and on by your ignition switch, by your key, and then it's also downstream of a fuse. So should you have a problem where this grounds out and causes a short circuit, you won't cause a fire, you'll cause a fuse to blow. So let's now explore where to connect that and what the methodology is, and I'll show you the exact steps, and then we'll test the system. Our switched and fused power source that I talked about is right about here above this area, so it'll be necessary to remove this shroud from under the headlight, and to do that we will be pulling a bunch of these push fasteners. Let's start by pressing their centers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I missed one. Okay, now we have all of them unlocked. We'll pry them out. Once all of those are out, we'll need to deform this part away from its locking location, push it back, and that will tab out from these areas here. Once all those tabs are clear, it'll swing down. If your signal lamp connections are still in their routing clips, that'll still bind the part here. So I will unclip them, and now we'll need to access the actual wire that we need to tap into, and that's right up here. At this point, we will identify the wire pair we are interested in. Here we have a gray and a black with white trace wire going into a white JST connector. Same type of connector as for the signals. This is for the running light. It is fused, it is switched. So this is a perfect one. I'm going to disconnect it from the bike, which is a little difficult from this vantage point, but still doable. And once I get that out, we're just working it down below the bike. There we go. So here we have a black wire with a white trace, that is the ground, and then we have the gray wire, which is the positive 12 fused and switched. This is where we will be making the connection. So this is the connector that we disconnected from the running light circuit up there. As you can see, I have cut away at the wire shielding here already. This was in the R&D phase, so I have no more extra length here to show. On your bike, it'll most likely span the length of this wire and you will need to snip away at it. I typically use small snips like this, cut it in half and then snip away, and that way you have plenty of length to work with. Now here you have this wire pair. You have a black with white trace, that is your ground. We will not be interested in this particular wire for this job. The gray one here is the positive 12 volt switched and fused, so that is what we will be working with. Our running light connection kit comes with 2 of these. I typically just use 1. If you feel comfortable using 2 instead, that's cool. What we need to do here is basically take this wire, run one of the bullet connectors to one side, have enough length to go to this wire here, connect that in, and then snip the other part off and size it appropriately so that we do the same thing but mirror image. I typically just connect 2 of these wires into one posi tap, so that's how I will show it, but you can do it any which way you choose within the parameters set here. The longer portion of the posi tap will unscrew from the larger diameter cap. Larger diameter cap has a slit through it. The slit will fit over the wire we are tapping into. Once you bottom that out, you grab the other side that you just unscrewed. It does have a little tapping element. It is a piercing geometry, has a little needle point. When you screw this on, when you thread this on, it will tighten down and pierce through the insulation of that wire and make your connection. Now once this is bottomed out, we're good to go here. We're going to take the smaller diameter cap and unscrew it, and this is where our tapping connection will go into. Now we'll need to size this wire. This is one length of wire that we are supposed to run to the connector and then to the signal connector and back to this connector. Choose the appropriate size of the wire, snip it off. I typically just, for the length choice, I try to make the connector go to this hole here, and that is very close to where the signal connects. So now I have this appropriate length of wire here, and that one's good to go. I'm going to rest it here for myself. Now this side, I'm going to route it up along here. And I have a little excess, so I'm going to snip that off. I'm going to grab a stripping tool and get about 5 millimeters stripped off this wire and also the other side wire. On the left side of the bike, we don't need to go through any geometry, but here I'd like to route this wire in a way that is self-captive within the bike. So there is a headlight and front fairing bracket here that has a hole through it. I'm just going to run it up above the harness and up through that hole, make it come out on this side. Then I'm going to twist these wires together in a very, very tight and neat twist. And now I'm going to bring the smaller diameter cap from the posi tap that we just took off and get that over the wire. The idea is that just a tiny little bit of wire should be protruding from the threaded side of this cap, And now I will thread that onto the other component that's already tapped into the bike. And once the thread starts, I'm going to apply pressure on the wires so that they go as far in and deep as possible while I turn this connection until it bottoms out and it feels like it can't go anymore. And then we have to satisfy the two following conditions. We do a tug test and none of the wires pull out, and then also inspect and make sure there is no conductor showing. If there is a conductor showing, you could try to redo this and hide all of the conductor. If you don't, this may touch a grounded part, short, cause a fuse to blow. We don't want that. So make sure that that is not exposed here, or at the very least, insulate it with some electrical tape if that is your flavor. All right, we have this connection made. I'm going to plug it back into where I unplugged it from. I have my switched and fused connection plugged in. Now, when our ignition goes hot, this should be live with 12 volts. Find the blue wire from our signal, that is the running light wire. Get it out. I'm gonna plug in into our running light connection kit. Make sure that that bullet connector is seated all the way in. Once that happens, get the insulator cap over the connection. And as always, I don't trust these insulator caps 100%, so I am going to tape over it so that it is locked down. I am demonstrating this on one side of the bike, so that means I don't have the other side plugged in yet. I would work on this side, get it completely mounted and connected, and then do a test in which we power everything on and cycle through all the functions. Let's now power up the bike and test our functions. Boom. We've successfully connected the running light and it looks the biz. And signal lamp works also, so we're good here. Now, we did show you guys in detail the steps for the left side. All the steps on the right side are just the same, just on the other side. So just follow the same procedure and you'll have success. Let's run through the cable management now. This cable and its protecting sleeve goes into this retainer, and then we have a retainer here for the connector. Now, before we do this, we do have this running light connection kit wire that is now loose. So what I'm going to do for its cable management is wrap it around this cable, and that'll keep that nicely for us. Plug this back in, get that situated back in its captive clips. Okay, that's nice. And now we just have all of this extra bulk here that we need to do something about. There is a good enough depth here behind this panel and we could stuff this into. I do like to bunch it up first and get it tied off. I recommend using a wire tie for this. I'm using our TST Industries reusable wire ties. If you don't have wire ties in your garage, you could pick a pack of these up with your purchase. Otherwise, any old wire tie will do. And then just shove it all down there and that's good to go. Back on the right side here, I've done the similar thing where I've wound the running light connection wire around this cable. And now I have all the connections necessary for the right side lamp right in the same area. So the next phase in the installation would be to connect all of the right side components here and basically follow the same steps as we did on the left side. And that's just redundant.
And there you have it. Just like that, this installation is now complete. We want to give a special thank you to Bart for taking time out of designing these products and providing you with the content you want to see and guiding you through this installation process. As you can see, we were able to really streamline the front end of this Suzuki GSX-8R. We were able to ditch the OEM signals, introduce a running light function, while also retaining a super bright signaling option. all plug and play and ready to ride. I think that the front end of this bike has really been revamped. It looks just as aggressive as it was intended to be, and I, for one, am a big fan. If you found this video helpful, be sure to give us a thumbs up. Leave your comments down in the comments field below. Let us know where you're watching from. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn the notification bell on to stay up to date with all the new and exciting videos we've got going on. If you like this product, you want to check it out, or you want to see what else we may have for the Suzuki GSX-8R or any other bike that's sitting in your garage, I'm going to say it loud and clear. Be sure to visit our website, tstindustries.com. The link to this kit can be found in the description below. And lastly, don't forget to stop by our social media pages, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all username TST Industries. For now, this has been Mark and Bart in the TST Garage, and we will catch you all next time.